Chapter 2. The bunker's heart. Jenny Jax's boots echoed on the bunker's steel stairs, each step a reminder of the world they'd left above. The air was cool and metallic, tinged with the faint musk of seal crates and the sharp tang of gun oil. 40 feet underground, the Jax family sanctuary was a fortress of foresight, shelves lined with canned food, barrels of water, medical supplies, and enough ammunition to outlast a small army. But as Jenny reached the bunker's main chamber, her botanist's heart ached for the open fields, the rustle of her herb garden, the life she'd nurtured on their 100-acre Ohio homestead. That world felt a lifetime away, and it had only been hours since the EMP struck. She set her satchel on a steel table, its contents, seeds, dried herbs, a notebook of remedies. Her contribution to their survival. The bunker's fluorescent lights, powered by the stream's hydropower turbine, cast stark shadows across the room. Grandma Jax was already at work, organizing medical kits with the precision of a wartime nurse. Her silver hair gleamed under the lights, but her hands moved with a slight tremble, betraying the weight of the night. "Penicillin's here," Grandma said, tapping a lock case. "Bandages, sutures, antiseptics, all accounted for. But we'll need to ration. No hospital runs anymore." Jenny nodded, her mind cataloging her own supplies. "I've got calendula and yarrow for wounds, chamomile for stress. The greenhouse stock should last us months, but I'll need to start indoor propagation soon." Grandma's eyes softened. "You're thinking ahead. Good. We'll need the head of yours, Jenny." The compliment warmed her, but it couldn't ease the knot in her chest. Jimmy and Grandpa were still out there, checking the perimeter after scaring off those looters. She trusted Jimmy, his steady hands, his hunter's instincts, but the gunfire they heard from Chillicothe gnawed at her. The city was only 10 miles away, close enough for trouble to spill over fast. The bunker's radio crackled, a futile hum of static. Jenny turned it off, her fingers lingering on the dial. No news, no voices, just silence. The EMP had gutted the world's pulse, and now they were alone. Or worse, not alone enough. Footsteps clanged on the stairs, and Jenny's hand went to knife at her belt. Grandma drew her 9mm, her stance calm but ready. The hatch swung open, and Jimmy's broad frame filled the doorway. Grandpa behind him. Jenny exhaled, her shoulders loosening. "Perimeter secure," Jimmy said, his voice rough from the night strain. He slung his crossbow onto a rack, his dark eyes scanning the bunker. Traps are reset. No sign of those looters, but they'll be back. Grandpa snorted, setting his .308 rifle on the table. "Told you, boy. Vultures are circling already. We need a watch schedule tonight." Jenny stepped forward, her gaze locking with Jimmy's. "You okay?" she asked, searching his face. He was a rock, but she knew the burden he carried, leading him through this, proving himself to Grandpa. He gave a tight nod. "Yeah, just glad we're all here." Grandma holstered her pistol. "Then let's get organized. Jenny, you and I will handle inventory. Jimmy, Grandpa, set up the watch posts. 2 hours each, no gaps." Jimmy hesitated, his jaw tightening. "I want Jenny with me on first watch. We need her eyes out there." Jenny's heart skipped. She wasn't a fighter like Jimmy or Grandpa, but she knew the land, every tree, every patch of soil. If trouble came, she'd spot it. "I'm in," she said, ignoring the flutter of fear. Grandpa grunted, flipping open his journal. "Fine, but don't get soft out there. Moon's up, so stay in the shadows." They divided tasks. The bunkers hum a steady backdrop. Jenny and Grandma sorted supplies, freeze-dried meals, batteries, fishing gear, while Jimmy and Grandpa checked the bunker's armory. The space was a marvel, built in the 80s when Grandpa's Vietnam paranoia convinced him the world would burn. Reinforced concrete walls, air filtration, a hidden escape tunnel. Every detail screamed survival. But it was also a cage, and Jenny felt its weight pressing in. An hour later, she and Jimmy climbed to the surface, the night air sharp against her skin. The homestead sprawled before them, its fields silver under the moon. The windmills stood still, their electronics dead. But the stream's turbine chugged faintly, a lifeline they couldn't lose. They took position behind a barricade near the orchard, a vantage point covering the eastern approach, the path those looters had taken. Jimmy crouched beside her, his crossbow ready. "You see anything, you call it," he whispered. "No Aruix." She nodded, her knife in one hand, a flashlight in the other. Her eyes adjusted to the dark, picking out familiar shapes, the apple trees, the fence line, the distant glow of Chillicothe's fires. "What do you think's happening out there?" she asked, her voice low. "Chaos," Jimmy said. "No power, no food, no rules. Folks will turn on each other fast. We saw it tonight. Those three weren't just scared. They were hunting." Jenny shivered, not from the cold. She'd studied plants, not people, but she knew desperation. Her mind flashed to her greenhouse, her herbs, the remedies she'd spent years perfecting. Could they heal a world gone mad? A rustle in the woods snapped her back. Jimmy raised his crossbow, his body tense. Jenny peered into the darkness, her flashlight off to avoid giving them away. The sound came again, branches snapping, footsteps, too heavy for a deer. "Stay low," Jimmy hissed, signaling her to move behind a tree. She obeyed, her pulse racing, her knife gripped tight. The moonlight revealed shapes, for figures this time, moving along the fence. One carried a rifle, another a machete. Their voices were muffled but urgent, and Jenny caught a glimpse of a familiar face. Carl, the shotgun man from earlier, his gait unsteady but determined. "They're back," she whispered, her breath catching. "With more." Jimmy's eyes narrowed. "We can't let him get close. The bunker's entrance is too near." Jenny's mind raced. They were outnumbered, and Grandpa and Grandma were underground, too far to help. She scanned the terrain, her knowledge of the land kicking in. "The snares," she said. "There's a tripwire 50 yards east. If we lure them that way, it'll slow him down." Jimmy nodded, a flicker of admiration in his gaze. "Smart. You stay here. Signal if they split up. I'll draw him to the traps." Before she could protest, he slipped into the shadows, moving with the grace of a hunter. Jenny crouched, her heart pounding, watching the looters creep closer. Carl was barking orders, pointing toward the farmhouse. They hadn't seen the bunker's hidden entrance, but they were too close for comfort. A sharp whistle cut the air, Jimmy's signal. The looters froze, then turned toward the sound, their weapons raised. Jenny held her breath as they moved east, toward the snares. Seconds later, a cry echoed. A man caught in a tripwire, his legs snared by Grandpa's Vietnam-inspired trap. The group panicked, their flashlight beams swinging wildly. Jimmy reappeared beside her, his crossbow trained on the chaos. "One down," he whispered, "but they're not running yet." Carl's voice rose, furious. "Find who did this. Spread out." Jenny's stomach dropped. If they scattered, they'd stumble closer to the bunker. She grabbed Jimmy's arm. "We need to scare them off now, or they'll find the hatch." He nodded, his jaw set. "Cover me." Before she could argue, he stood, firing a crossbow bolt that grazed Carl's shoulder. The looter howled, dropping his shotgun. Jenny flicked on her flashlight, aiming it at the group to blind them. "Get out!" she shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. "Next one's through your heart." The looters hesitated, disoriented by the light and the trap's chaos. Then, as Jimmy reloaded, they broke, dragging their snare companion and retreating toward the road. Carl's curses faded into the night, but his final words chilled her. "We'll burn this place down." Jimmy lowered his crossbow, his breath ragged. "Good work, Jen. You okay?" She nodded, though her hands shook. "They know we're strong. That's something, right?" "For now," he said, his eyes on the horizon. "But they'll bring more next time." They returned to the barricade, settling in for the rest of their watch. The homestead was quiet again, but the peace felt fragile, like a held breath. Jenny thought of the bunker below, of Grandma's steady hands, Grandpa's plans, the life they'd built. She thought of her herbs, her knowledge, the small ways she could keep them whole. As the moon climbed higher, a new sound drifted from Chillicothe. Not gunfire this time, but screams, raw and desperate. Jenny gripped her knife, her resolve hardening. The world was unraveling, but the Jacks family would not.